You're gonna wanna sit down for this because the NFT markets are going down. But it's not all bad news because crashes happen all the time in crypto and NFTs. So you wanna make sure you have a strategy to survive and thrive and come out of this alive. Specifically, we're gonna be talking about what's going on in the market and how I'm personally going to be navigating these rough waters. First thing we're gonna look at is the overall crypto markets, Bitcoin, Ethereum, all the other altcoins, because those are going to directly affect the NFT market, which is a lot more volatile compared to like Ethereum and Bitcoin, for example. And first of all, it's really unfortunate what's going on in Ukraine and Russia and all those things like that. And I don't want to get too deep into that. I think other people can cover those topics much better than I can. So I'm just gonna say that I hope everybody stays safe and I hope that we can make it out of this. And let's go ahead and just dive into the markets. First of all, we gotta look at the S&P 500, right? So S&P 500, it's going down because S&P is made up of the largest US companies, right? It's not like super tanking, but it definitely has been going down a bit, especially when it was on a run. And then that is also affecting the crypto markets as well, right? People are scared, people are panicking, people are not sure what is going to happen. Bitcoin and Ethereum obviously are taking quite a dump. In the last 24 hours, it's dropping 8%, 11%, which is, not that huge when you think about it, but we don't really know how far it can go, right? Like in the last day, it's going from 2.7 all the way to 2.3. Realistically, can it get down to like 2K, 1.8? People, I'm not a super technical analysis kind of guy, but based on the people I follow, people are saying that it's possible that it can get back to where the last support was, which was about 1.8K. So, if it got to that point, in my opinion, it could be a potential possibility and also a potential buy-in opportunity, assuming it doesn't get lower, which it absolutely could. So what a lot of big brain people are doing is, as ETH goes down and if they really believe in Ethereum and NFTs and like the whole ecosystem, what a lot of people are doing are actually dollar cost averaging as the price goes down. So basically, as the price gets cheaper and cheaper, let's say it goes to 2K, they buy a little bit, it gets to like 1.9, 1.8, they buy more, they buy more, they buy more, and they just buy all the way down. If you believe that the price will go up, then it's quite a good strategy because you're buying cheap, right? But it's also possible that the whole crypto market might go into like a very hardcore bear, which has happened before, years ago, right? Where basically everything just trades sideways, everything just completely down. But if you think about all the whales or people who are whales today, back a few years ago, they were kind of just regular people who just bought when everything was cheap, when no one was caring about it. And then, over time, the hype kind of builds back up. So if you kind of believe in it long-term, you just kind of hold, which is what I'm doing. You don't really have much to worry about because if you believe in the price going up overall in the long term, then it's all right. And that's why it's very important not to overinvest and not to, invest anything you can't lose, because if you need that money, you're gonna probably take it out when everything is down and you're gonna lose a lot of money, right? But if you can hold, that could be good. And if you could buy more on the way down, if you have a lot of cash, that's also another opportunity. Again, it's not financial advice, it's just what I hear people doing and some strategies that I'm implementing myself. And going into the altcoins, basically all the altcoins are just like going down the drain, right? Yeah, a lot of it is like built on hype, like Shiba Inu and stuff, not much utility. So it would make sense that everything crashes. Now let's go ahead and go to OpenSea and look at, what's going on in the NFT space specifically, right? So for NFTs, you can see that in the last 24 hours, there's a lot of volume, which you might think is good, but actually it's not, because it's just people like undercutting each other and selling. So if you use another tool called NFT Go, we see that there's a lot of volume, but then the prices, the floors in the last 24 hours have been dropping. CryptoPunks dropped 12%, Bored Apes, 21% drop, Mutant Apes, 30% drop. So like across the board, everything is dropping. So if you have Ethereum just like stashed up, it might be an opportunity to buy, or if you have USDT, which is even better in this situation, you could buy Ethereum and then you could buy NFTs when everything's going down, right? But it's hard to time to market to know exactly when the lowest point will be. You kind of have to watch like Bitcoin and Ethereum and kind of have a little bit of a technical analysis to do that. But again, it is an opportunity to get into projects that were once super expensive and then now they're much cheaper. Personally, what I'm looking at from a macro perspective is I'm kind of paying attention to like what's dropping the hardest like a rock, because it's like a lot of projects out there are built on hype. With a lot of hype, once the market crashes and people realize like, oh, this is not going up, this is just like a scam, then these projects are gonna die, right? And so I'm looking at who's really building, who's gonna build during a bear market, and who's probably gonna make it like, 1 or 2 years from now, and those are the NFTs that I would personally want to hold. So the first NFT we're gonna be talking about is Invisible Friends. At the time of this recording, they just minted. There's so much hype for it. The floor right now is 8.5, and I'm gonna show you like what to kind of stay away from, or like what to be wary of, because hype is not sustainable, right? So this is kind of reminding me of like Megaverse, if you've been in NFTs that long, or Hate Prime, where the price is just ridiculous, like 10 ETH or 8 ETH, and then just drops all the way to like 1 ETH, right? So we're looking at Invisible Friends. Again, there's no utility for it. It's literally just hype. And then the people that do these kind of projects, they just create another project over and over and over, and they don't really build long-term utility for any of their project, actually. They just kind of suck liquidity out of the market, in my opinion. So pretty much, after it minted, people are buying it for like, dude, like 13 ETH, 12 ETH, which is super super expensive for an invisible friend, and then the price just dumped all the way to 8. When it's oversold, it goes back up to 10, and then just keeps happening. But then overall, the trend is going down, right? Because I think people are realizing over time, there's no utility for this. You know, there's no roadmap, there's nothing. There's just like, it's just a picture. You're literally buying a super expensive picture. If you really like compare what's going on, an invisible friend is 8.5 ETH, no utility. All it is an invisible person walking. And then you know the founder is known to just create project after project after project, which is just money for him over and over and over. And he doesn't build long-term utility for any of these projects actually. And then now we're looking at like CloneX, which is a Nike-owned company, crypto OGs in a sense, 10.8 floor, collaboration with Takashi Murakami, one of the top pop artists in the entire world right now. And they have like 20,000 units, whereas Invisible Friends has like 5,000 units, right? So you just think about it. Do you think Invisible Friend is worth the price of a CloneX? No, absolutely not, dude. It's just a project that literally just came out like today. You know, there's no reason for why this price is sustainable. And that's why my prediction for this project is that it's just gonna go down, especially during these certain times. Why would anyone want to hold an invisible friend, right? They don't know what they're getting in the future. Whereas if you hold like a CloneX, you can be like, at least I know Nike's gonna keep building for the long term, right? But invisible friends, are they really building for the long term? Who is actually behind it? Do they have a track record of successful projects? Not really. So that's really the dangers of what you want to stay away from, especially during uncertain times, because this is when you can go from like an 8 ETH floor all the way to like 2, which I would think this would fall to. Basically, for me personally, like all of these like projects that don't really have a long-term future, I just kind of stay away from them because, you know, during uncertain times, the prices just crash and nobody really believes in the project. And this is literally gonna happen to 99% of the NFT projects. Literally, when we're looking at the top NFTs on OpenSea, right? Like when you scroll down all the way to 80 plus and stuff like that, a lot of these, you won't even remember who they are like 6 months from now. They always changes. And I'm not gonna call out any projects for like what's a scam, what's not a scam, but like just know that 99% of these things are gonna be gone a year from now. And so it's all about picking the ones that will actually be around and actually have the competency and skill to build a long-term project is what I would be looking for. So I'm gonna give you some examples of projects that I personally am looking into, and you know, if the price gets low enough, I'll probably buy some more. And so let's get into it. First project we're gonna talk about is Kaiju Kingz, and I know I've been talking about Kaiju Kingz a lot, but they've been, you know, executing quite a bit. They put out mutants, they put out an arcade game, and they're building for the long term. Over time, I wasn't really sure what their long term was because they're building so many different projects, and I still have that red flag. But you know, they've been executing a lot more than other projects. So Kaiju Kingz would be an example of a project that is building for the long term. And then I would actually go for a Genesis if you were looking into this. And I think right now it might be overpriced. I wouldn't say overpriced, but I wouldn't pay, you know, 4.8 ETH. But if it went down to like under 4 or definitely under 3, then that's definitely a time to pick one up, in my opinion. Not financial advice. I wouldn't really go for the babies or the mutants because I feel like the baby is valuable because you get the alpha, but the Genesis, you always want the Genesis because the benefits of holding a Genesis will far outweigh everything in the future. And of course, I'm looking at Cyberkongz as well. Cyberkongz is basically one of my biggest bags, and it's one of the projects that I believe in the most. Price of the baby is actually dropping quite a lot. It was literally like 7.5 a couple hours ago. Now it's like 6.75 because everyone's trying to get rid of it because they're uncertain, obviously, right? So like if this went down to like 5 ETH, 4 ETH, I would say that's pretty good, especially with play to collect, the play to earn game coming out. I think that would be an interesting one. VX, more of the entry level one. It's, you know, 2 ETH right now, but probably will drop. You know, there's gonna be a play to earn mechanic, but I would say anything under 1.5 ETH, if it ever got to that, I would say that's pretty good. If you can get it, you know, yeah, 1 ETH to 1.5, you know, I'm definitely looking at this. Azuki is another project. Obviously, this is like super expensive for a lot of people, but like if it dropped even more, it would be something I would be looking at because they really did change the game when it comes to the quality of standard, when it comes to NFTs and anime. Being the first in doing that and like creating this whole wave of like anime NFTs, it's kind of like a historic project in my eyes, in a sense. I mean, it seems like the team is very competent and they're building for the long term, so I would look at Azuki. The next one, a little bit of a new one, Karufuru. We covered it on this channel, but the price dropped quite a bit from 3 ETH to 2.3. The guy who's building it is an entrepreneur who's been successful outside of NFTs, and now he's doing NFTs, so most likely they're gonna build for the long term, and I could see them, you know, being an IP for their specific niche in the vinyl toys space. You know, this is a project that I would also be looking at because a lot of people believe in it long term, and you know, the founder already has a successful track record. He's doxed and everything like that. You could look up his businesses on Google, like the Museum of Toys and things like that. So I would definitely be looking at this because it is a cheaper entry price, and the units, it's only like 5.6K versus like 10K or 20K. So you know, I like those dynamics. Nanopass, another project that I'm bullish on. You know, the price did dip a bit. You know, everything's dipping right now, but like having a Nanopass is going to be the most valuable compared to, let's say, Project PXN that they're coming coming out, their picture profile that's coming out, NFT keys, which is all kind of under the same umbrella. You know, from my research and listening to interviews with the founder Ray, the Nanopass is going to be the thing that's going to provide the most value because it's like the most OG thing. It's the one that generates the shards, which will be used in their play to earn mechanic and things like that. So definitely a project I would be looking at. And again, like during these uncertain times, like when I'm sharing these projects with you, I'm not saying that you should buy it right now because literally tomorrow the market might even dump like another 50%, right? I don't know, nobody really knows. I'm just saying like keep an eye out for these things and have an idea of when you want to enter and when you want to exit, if you want to exit in the short term. These are just projects that I'm personally looking at. If the price is cheap enough and I think it's undervalued, yeah, I would go for it, right? And if I have to hold it for a long time because we go into a bear, so be it. And that's the risk you take with NFTs. Remember, don't invest, don't overinvest, don't like put your life savings into it and think like, oh, this is the opportunity of a lifetime, because things might go even far worse than you believe. So only invest what you can afford to lose, not financial advice. And the next project we're gonna look at is actually not on Ethereum, but it's on, you know, Treasure and the Magic ecosystem, right? Which is like a layer 2 built on top of Ethereum. You know, I'll be looking at like these small brands, right? I've been eyeing it for a bit. I wanted to learn a lot more about like Magic and Treasure and that whole ecosystem that they're building. I always felt like the price was a little too expensive and I didn't understand it that much, you know, and now I understand it a lot more than I did like a couple weeks ago. This is a project that I'm personally looking at to see if when the right entry is. And again, you know, I don't know exactly when the right entry is for this specific project because I'm not an expert when it comes to Magic and Treasure. And I think that if you want to learn more about, you know, NFTs on this ecosystem, which could be pretty big in future or completely fail, I would definitely look into like Smol Brains and like the other NFTs that they have in this ecosystem. And the last thing I'll say is that if you're going through this time and all your portfolio is like dropping really fast and things like that, and you need a little support, check out my Discord, you know, because it's completely free. You know, all of us, we're in NFTs, we talk about these stuff with each other, we try to help each other out, and if you're not sure what to do, if you're panic selling or should you buy and all these questions, just check out the Discord, you know, go into alpha chat, you know, and ask some questions because I'm always there all the time, pretty much every day. I got moderators and team members in there to help you out. Link is in the description and I'll see you guys there. So with that said, that's it for this video. I'll see you guys in the next one.